Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Connection Table podcast. This is going to be called the Connection Table Update. This is the podcast we do here at the Biblical Studies Center in Boise, Idaho. And if you are a subscriber, we thank you for that. If you've not yet subscribed, we encourage you to click that little subscribe icon, hit the bell, let them be notified when we put these things out. We try to do these live every Friday afternoon just to kind of give you an update as to what's happening at the BSC. Little heads up. Last time I was on, we talked about what can we do with the podcast? What would we like to see different or more of or less of? And we decided that this is going to be an update, a live update on Friday afternoons. And I'll just come on for, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes and just talk about what's happening at the BSC. But then we're going to offer something a little bit different. It's going to be a regular podcast. We're going to have two versions of this. One's going to be an update, and the other is going to be a regular length podcast where we do interviews or teachings that will be on regular podcast platforms and that you can share with friends and listen to while you're going about your day getting information about the Bible. So this is what we're all about here at the BSC is a place to connect and grow. We want to connect people and help people grow. So this is the Connection Table podcast. Just Friday afternoons is the update, but starting at the end of March, beginning of April, we're going to have the more lengthy version on other podcast platforms. Keep an ear out for that. We'll be talking about that more as we go. I wanted to call your attention to the fact that the BSC is hosting Dean Braxton at the end of March. March 27th is a Friday evening, and Dean Braxton is going to come to town and give his testimony. Now, if you don't know who Dean Braxton is, I would encourage you to go to boisebsc.org/speakers and click the link and get yourself some tickets because they're free. You don't have to pay for them. Just go get free tickets. The reason we're ticketing is we only have so many seats, and we could easily get a couple hundred people to come see Dean Braxton, but we only have so much room here at the BSC. So we are asking you to ticket the event. And again, they're free tickets, but you do need to get a ticket to come. Who is Dean Braxton? Great question. Glad you asked. Dean, back about 20 years ago, was going in for an operation and he died. He died after the surgery, and he was technically, legally, clinically dead for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Now, that part is indisputable. The medical records show he was dead. The doctors that were actually interviewed by the 700 Club said, yep, he was really, really dead. And they worked for 1 hour and 45 minutes to revive him. And Dean came back. So that much we know is all true. What we can listen to and consider is what Dean experienced in that hour and 45 minutes. While his body wasn't functioning, his heart had stopped. Where was Dean? What was he experiencing? That's what he's going to talk about during this talk. Now you can doubt it, and I don't blame you. You can be skeptical about it, but I do encourage you to listen to it. And you can ask questions afterwards, find out what's been going on. And then we're also, by the way, going to be having him here again on Saturday morning with our video cameras rolling to do a recorded Q&A. And so if you wanted to come to that as well, you could come ask questions there. The idea is let's hear from Dean. Let's find out what he has to say. And you can ask questions and find out some answers. Now, the nice thing, what I like about Dean, I've had him on my show before when I did a different show, and I've talked to many, many people who have met Dean, who've worked with Dean, who say that he's the real deal. That everything he says 99% of what he's going to tell you, he can back up biblically. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. That's going to, again, the evening of March 27th. Going to be free tickets. Go to the Boise BSC, boisebsc.org/speakers, and you can get your tickets there. They're free. The Miracle Man, no heartbeat for over an hour, but God had other plans. Friday night, Dean Braxton, March 27th. All right. Get your tickets for that. Get them early. And maybe you can get up to 4 free tickets, by the way. So if you want to get tickets for you and some friends, bring some unbelievers. Bring some people with skeptical questions. Dean will answer them. All right, we are in the middle of our second session here of classes at the BSC. We got 5 week classes. We have 3 weeks of 3 different sessions. We got a first session, 5 week classes. We're in the middle of our second session of 5 weeks. And at the end of the month, we start our third set of classes that'll finish up the spring semester. Those classes, we have 2 classes on counseling, the counseling process, and common counseling issues. Those are going to be here at the BSC on Monday and Wednesday mornings. You can find out more about what those are about. Those both apply to the certificate in biblical counseling. And you can find out more about that certificate by going to boisebsc.org/certificates. Give you information about that. I also have a Zoom class. If you don't want to come to the BSC, but you want to take a class, Tuesday mornings from 9 to 11 is Who is the Jesus of the Bible? Who is this Jesus guy? What's he like? We're going to explore that in a class taught by Professor John Knox on Tuesday mornings, Zoom class from 9 to 11 on Tuesdays. Wednesday afternoons, we're going to have a class here in the classroom on cultural apologetics, be taught by Michael Oswald, who runs the Ratio Christi organization here on the Boise State campus, teaching college students about apologetics, how to defend the faith. How do we argue defensively for what we believe? It's a reasoned faith. We don't just have blind faith, we have a reasoned faith. And because of those reasons, we can articulate them better. We can win more people to Christ. And that's what this class is about. It's kind of an advanced apologetics course. And then, starting the end of the month, we're doing a class called Discipleship Basics. That's going to be on Friday mornings here at the BSC from 9 to 11, live class. And we're going to have a couple of books that we have students read. This is basically how to become a disciple so that you can be a discipler. And we're going to have 2 books in that class. It's a 5 week class. One of them is called by Robbie Gallaty, and it's called Growing Up: How to Be a Disciple Who Makes Disciples. And that's going to be required reading if you were wanting to apply that class toward one of our certificates. But for anybody else who just wants to come to the class to learn how to become a better disciple so that you can be a better discipler, I have a book that I wrote about 23 years ago called Removing Obstacles to Success. And I have made the command decision that anybody who registers for the class is going to get a free copy of this book. It's a very fun book, it's an easy read. You can knock it out in a couple hours, actually. But we're going to have a discussion on Friday mornings about the contents of these books and what it means to be a disciple of Christ. What does it mean? We have to have certain disciplines in place because that's what we're talking about here is a discipline to be a disciple, to become a student of Jesus. So how can we structure our lives in a way that we can become a good disciple? That's what that class is about. It's going to be starting at the end of the month, the last Friday of March. I believe that's actually going to be May. We'll have that class be 5 weeks, starting at the end of March, beginning of May, April. Fix that, beginning of April. All right. Speaking of the certificates, I wanted to touch on this before we wrap up. We have a certificate we're going to start teaching in the summertime. We've never done this before at the BSC. We've never had summer classes, but we're going to be trying it this year, see how it works. And I have a certificate sheet in front of me here on the certificate in Christian education. I want to speak now to people out in the community who may be working at a church who do Sunday school, or maybe you want to start having some adult Sunday school, or maybe even develop Bible studies. You don't even have to be teaching formal classes. Maybe you want to develop a Bible study. And how do you do that? That is Christian education, whether it's formal or informal. Well, this class is going to be for you. This is going to be starting in the summer. We'll be looking at different classes, walking you through what does it take to create a Bible lesson. And so inductive Bible study is one of the topics. How to understand learners we have different learning styles. When someone has a different learning style from you, how do we have to adapt our conversation to match their learning style? As someone who's taught training in the secular world for decades, I've often said, if the learner is not getting it, it's not the learner's fault. It's the trainer's fault, right? And so that same thing's going to apply with Christian education. When Paul writes, I became all things to all people, He's talking about being able to adapt his delivery style to the style of the people who he's teaching. That's what we're going to be talking about in that particular class. So we're talking about how people learn. There's three different we call domains. There's head learning, there's skill learning, there's attitudinal learning. We'll be discussing these types of learning. So if you want to take a look at the certificate and what's required, we don't have the classes laid out yet as to what dates they're going to be. But based on the feedback I've gotten so far, talking with people that are interested in the certificate, it's most likely they will be holding them in the evenings. So if you, I know summer class, evening classes in the summertime, you're really going to make us do that? Yeah, we're going to see how it works. But we're going to get you started on this certificate in Christian education. If you'd like, I would encourage you to talk with your pastor about that as well. There's probably some people out there who he would like to have go through this training to help increase the education at his or her church. So that's what we're talking about, right? What do we do with Christian education? There are some certain things, and I tell people all the time, the ability to stand up and talk does not a trainer make. There are certain things a trainer needs to know, so a teacher needs to know to be really good at transferring the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes. That's what this certificate's about. All right, so that's the update. As I said, go to boisebsc.org/speakers to find out about this presentation at the end of the month, March 27th. Dean Braxton will be speaking here at the BSC. Your tickets are free. Can't beat that price. And Dean will be sharing his testimony of what he experienced during that hour and 45 minutes that his body wasn't functioning. And you can free to ask him some questions. With that, we're going to call it a wrap. Stay tuned. At the end of this month, we'll be making an announcement as to the regular Connection podcast that's going to be on the regular podcast platforms. But for now, we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. I am Daniel Bobinski, the Education Director here at the BSC. We'll catch you next week. Until then, be blessed.
Visit us at boisebsc.org to learn more and sign up for classes. Every class we offer applies toward one or more of our certificate programs. We're the Biblical Studies Center, a place to connect and grow right here in Idaho's Treasure Valley.